Hello everybody. Today's video I'm going to be giving you a brief overview of the 10.8 update notes. I want to ideally do these a lot in the future, especially when those bigger changes happen. So I figured since I'm going to be really busy this week and I've been busy for a while, I'll just make a quick video on this since it's going to be quick and easy. I'm sorry. Coming up soon, I will be making more heavily edited support guides and whatnot. I love making those and I know you guys like to watch those. So those will be coming back soon. Just I've been really busy at work, so kind of don't have a lot of time to make those. But yeah, if you haven't guessed already, this overview I will strictly be discussing the support changes that are being made. So any like support buffs or item buffs or whatnot that directly affect the role. So I won't be talking about any mages or items that don't really relate to that too much. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and begin. So right off the bat, we got some new skins. These don't matter for support, obviously, but I do want to talk about these because, like, Avatar, I love Avatar. So Scene Toph and Avatar Roku, that's pretty cool. Like this, I don't like that it's on Scylla. I think it definitely could have been on somebody else, but this is really sick. So can't complain. This really fucking cute Danzaburo skin. I like this, and then this cool Agni skin. Lots of cool skins. Let's scroll down and let's talk about our first change. Soul Surges have been removed from all game modes. This is a good change. Nobody likes Soul Surges. It gave a little bit extra farm early on in the game, and that's about it. More than anything, it was kind of just a nuisance. You'd be trying to back, and then you have this thing randomly start chasing you, which is just quite annoying, especially as a support. So, very happy this is gone. Because just all around, they were really annoying to kill. They were annoying when they attacked you. They were not fun. So, something like this could be cool if they bring it back in the future. It's just overall, this just wasn't fun to play with. So I'm happy they took it out. And it just means you can back and lane easier now because you don't get stopped by these random ghost minions. Next up, this is a big change. This is an objective that actually matters, especially as support. This is one of the best objectives right now to contest because it's really good. It stacks. It gives you stackable buff that does actually impact late game. So we have the Stygian Beacon. The cooldown of when they spawn is decreased from 6 minutes to 5 minutes, which means they're going to be spawning faster. The Unleashed Titan gets new stat changes. So you have from 5,500 to 6,000, and then you have increased prots, increased power, and then as well increased golden XP for killing it. So in total, what does this mean? It means what it says. The beacons will be spawning faster, which is nice. It means you have to fight around them more and contest them more, which is a good thing. A lot of Smite games will see players just running around doing nothing when they should be going for objectives. And I like the beacon. I think it's a really cool, unique objective that not a lot of other MOBAs have. It's like the whole King of the Hill type of deal. And I think it's really cool. So it being up more frequent is very cool in my opinion. The Titans being harder to kill, I actually hard agree with. I really like this change. I think they were really squishy, and it only really took you like a minute max to kill one. Not even. It took you like 30 seconds to kill one if you had good DPS. So I think this is a good change as well. It'll make Titan pushes a lot more relevant, and it'll be a lot more meta, I think, to actually group around your Titan when it's pushing, especially if you've captured 2 or 3 of the beacons. Because you and the Titan are getting those extra bonuses. I think this is going to be super cool and is going to lead to a lot more interesting fights. And honestly, I think it's going to lead to shorter conquest games as well, which is always a good thing. Because I do like me some long conquests, but I don't want every game being like 30 to 40 minutes. I like it when it's closer to like 25 to 30. But maybe that's just me. Moving on, we do have some arena changes that I won't really talk about because arena is more of like a fun game mode. This is also not going to stay permanently in the game. They always do this. This is just like once a year they add a fun arena mode for a little bit and then bring back normal arena. But you can read about this if you want. I'm not going to talk about it too much. Joust, however, I will discuss, as there is a pretty decently sized competitive scene in Joust. Not obviously like high res competitive, but community competitive. So supports got fucked is what this says. They added back all the support or all the starter items in Joust and upgrades except for literally all of the support starters. And then they also banned Emperor's Armor, which makes sense. Towers and Phoenixes are already super easy to get in Joust. And so Emperor's Armor doesn't really have a fitting there. It kind of makes it too OP because they're You can basically just infinitely tower dive. So I like that change. However, I dislike that all these support starters are out of Joust. I like starters in Joust, honestly, but I don't know why necessarily they are leaving out support starters. That kind of seems silly. Especially since they have this whole like section where if we scroll down a bunch, they are buffing and nerfing specific things for other for non-conquest modes. I don't really necessarily understand why we don't do something like that with items and just have like blue text in the item description that says out of conquest this does this instead or something like that. I don't know. Even if they, I understand that they just don't like these support items. They think it makes Joust a little bit unfun, but like it's weird, man. A huge community, a huge portion of the community in this game plays support. So removing these altogether instead of just balancing them better is a little weird to me. That being said, though, like I said, I do agree with the Emperor's armor change. I think this is pretty sick. But then again, I guess that same argument applies of why don't they just balance this item better outside of Conquest? Or why don't they just balance the mode better? Like, why don't they make towers and phoenixes not get one shot if you have a hunter late game in Joust? But I digress. Let's go ahead and move on to items that will actually matter for Conquest. First off, we have Lotus Buff, which is really cool. We have reduced protections from items requirement per stack from 50 to 45. And the overall procs from items required goes from 250 to 225. What this means is that when you're playing a mage support and you want to go Lonos Mask, you can get the max passive easier. So you're not getting that extra stack that decreases your damage done, which is super cool. This item's a really cool item. It's one of the best items in the game, actually. So if you're a mage support, you should definitely be considering picking this up, especially after the buffs here. This is going to be very good. And I definitely expect to see this item make a huge increase in popularity, although it's already super popular. So I'm excited. I like this item. I've always liked Lonos Mask, so I'm really excited for this. Another really cool change is we have a buff to Spartan Flag. Now, arguably, Spartan Flag before this was just the worst item in the game. If you were going to go War Flag, you were almost every game going to get War Banner because Spartan Flag just did nothing. All it gave you was that 10% power, which is nice. You know, a buff is nice. And the AoE is pretty big. But it was just pretty lackluster. Now, if they're giving you the 2 extra gold per 5 and a 10% attack speed bonus as well, that's actually really cool. I'm imagining this item could actually be built quite a lot now, specifically on a character like Fafnir, maybe, who was already buffing the attack speed of his allies. But the argument has to be made, is this better than War Banner? And I don't think it is yet. War Banner gives you 40% attack speed. And then it also gives you, I believe, 20% movement speed, which is just crazy. Or actually, no, it might... Yeah, no, 20% movement speed. Yeah. It's either 20 or 30. I can't remember off the top of my head. But either way, it gives you a lot of movement speed and it gives you 40% attack speed. So you're losing out on the 30% attack speed with this. However, as opposed to you having to get stacks of that War Banner, this is applied whenever you just hit an enemy god with an ability. So there are some caveats to it. I'm actually expecting this item to be a lot better. I think it's definitely an option to consider building. What I like about Spartan Flag is that unlike War Banner, it's giving you power instead of prots, and I think that's pretty cool. You don't need as many prots right now because prots are so easy to come by with Thebes, Prophetic Cloak, Pridwin's being built every game. So having an aggressive support starter item that's still giving you that gold per 5, and then it also gives you a little bit of power, I think could be really cool. So hopefully this item does get built a little bit more. I've always liked War Flag as an item itself, so any buff to its morphs is subsequently a buff to War Flag itself, and that makes me happy because I love War Flag. But yeah, like I said, ideally this is going to be built on characters like Fafnir and whatnot. So just keep this in mind. I don't think it's going to be crazy OP. I think it's actually still probably a little bit worse than War Banner. But this is a nice little change that they did to the item. Berserker Shield this is kind of a tank item, so I guess you could maybe qualify it for support, although I don't think you should be building this in support, but let's talk about it anyway. They're decreasing the cost, making it cheaper to obtain, and they're increasing the health threshold from 50 to 60%, basically making it easier to acquire this item and then making it easier to proc this item, which is always cool. Shogun's Kusari buff. This plus Spartan flag is going to be very fun. You know, I've always liked Shoguns, so buffing Shoguns, again, makes me happy. Increasing the health from 100 to 150, that's nice, gives you 50 extra health. And then they're increasing the magical protections by 5. You know, that doesn't seem like much, but 5 protections is actually quite a bit, based on the formula that they use for damage calculation. And plus, it's getting the extra health. So in total, this item is going to make you just a little bit more tankier, but you're going to feel it substantially, especially if you get this as your sole, like, magic defense only item. You know, like kind of like how you get Sav for the Fizz defense only. I think this is going to be built a lot more, especially when you consider the changes made to Spartan flag, now giving you that 10% attack speed boost plus the power boost it already gave you. Again, with this buff, I'm expecting characters like Fafnir to build this a lot. And with those two changes in mind, I'm expecting Fafnir specifically, I'm expecting him to be played a lot more, which I'm really excited about because I love Fafnir. He's one of my favorite characters. Moving on, we have some healing changes. The rejuvenating heart is getting buffed. They're increasing the healing dealt per stack from 6% to 10%, and then they're decreasing the max stacks from 8 to 5. Very similar to what they did for Berserker Shield. They're just making it essentially easier to get the proc of this. And they're also making the procs better, which is nice. You know, this item is really lackluster. I still think it's not going to be built ever. It just really doesn't have a spot to be built in healing support builds. Because, you know, if you're playing a healer support, you really want to get items like Thieves. You want to get Lotus Sickle. If you really want to focus on the heal, you get Rod of Asclepius. And that's already 3 items down. And you're still going to want items like Pridwin, maybe a Spear of Desolation if you want some power and pen and cooldown. It's just really hard to fit an item like this in. So I don't expect this to be built a lot, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll see some crazy gamers out there making some new builds that utilize this item a lot. After that, we have the physical counterpart, secondscepter. They're decreasing the cost from 25 to 2400, which is always good, especially as this is a support item. They need to be a little bit cheaper since supports usually don't have as much gold. Excuse me. They're decreasing the buff duration from 6 seconds to 5 seconds, and then they're increasing the cooldown benefit from 5 seconds to 1 second. So this decreased buff duration has to happen in order for this to happen, because if this doesn't happen, then that's kind of insane. But overall, I think this is actually a really cool change. Not too many supports that have heals are physical. In fact, the only physical god that I can think of off the top of my head that has a heal that can be played support is Horus. And I actually think this is a pretty okay Horus item. You know, Hercules actually... Hercules does use this quite well. But I think Horus actually is going to really like this item now. It's going to be something that you can definitely benefit from. The extra power is nice. The cooldown benefits are nice, obviously. I think this could definitely make Horus a little bit stronger. And I already think Horus is really strong right now, so this is going to be really fun to see. PTS is live tonight, so I will be testing some stuff out. Maybe I'll make a video. Who knows? We'll see. But overall, I expect this to be not a core item on Horse, but this is definitely going to be a item that I'm going to keep my eye on for a little bit with these buffs. This is going just the main thing is it becoming 100 gold cheaper makes it so much better. You know, 100 gold might not seem like a lot if you're not like a true support main, but really if you're a support main, you know that this item is that's so nice because you don't have to wait as long to get this item. It's gonna be really nice. Brawler's Beat Stick, they're decreasing the cost. None of these really are support items. Brawler's Beat Stick is anti-heal, so I have to include it because sometimes you can go that as support. Ares, I guess we're moving on to gods because they didn't really change too much about items. I did look over this before I did this video, but I'm still kind of shocked that there's not as many item changes as I would like there to be. But that's okay. We have another big patch coming up in a little bit here. Shackles, they're decreasing the cooldown from 15 seconds to 13 seconds, and then they're increasing the crowd control reduction on S2 from 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 to just 30% in all ranks, which is cool. You know, this honestly didn't really matter as much. You weren't leveling the ability to get the increased crowd control reduction. You were leveling it to get the prots. So this is just a quality of life change. Honestly, this doesn't really make him OP or anything. However, the decreased cooldown on Shackles base is amazing. Cooldown on areas was really interesting because before this season, you actually couldn't get too many cooldown items that really corresponded with his passive. And now that's obviously different. You have a lot of cooldown items that correspond with this passive, like Prophetic Cloak, Pythags, Shogun's Kusari, and a lot more. But this is a really cool change. You know, I like this being a lot less cooldown, especially since Ares hasn't really been in a great spot recently. He's really easy to kill due to his lack of mobility. Overall, I think this is a good change. Ardio, they are decreasing the max stacks on her passive from 6 to 4, and then increasing the protection debuff per stack from 2% to 3%. So you're getting 2 less stacks, but you're getting 1% more each stack, which is really cool. So you're effectively getting 12% protection debuff on her passive, which is amazing. Built-in prot shred is always, always, always good, especially right now in a little bit of a tank meta. So this is a much better passive now. Energy Surge, her first ability in Druid stance is they're increasing the damage from 60, 95, 130, 165 to 200 to it looks like 10 at all ranks. So 70, 105, 140, 175, 210. That's a good change. You know, Ardio hasn't been seen in a long time, especially in support. She's primarily a solo laner if you're playing her. I think she definitely can be a support. You know, she has a lot of CC and utility in her kit, so any change makes me happy. And then this damage increase actually makes sense to her as a character because she's meant to be played as a character that keeps fighting. You know, she has to sustain. Her goal is to stay in the fight for as long as possible, so you want her to be not OP, obviously. You don't want her doing insane damage, but you want her to do some damage, you know? And then same thing, they're increasing the damage on the each swipe by about 5 as opposed to the 10. So if you hit both swipes, you're hitting for about 340, which is cool. Not 340, sorry, 320. I can math. Awilix, Shock, those aren't usually supports. Gilgamesh, they're increasing the bonus damage on his 1. From 2.5 to 3% of max health per hit, and then they're increasing the damage on his jump. He's not really played support too much, but sometimes he is, so felt like I talk about him. Lance isn't really played support. None of these guys are. Ravana sometimes is. They're decreasing his health shield, thank God, and they're increasing the damage on his 1 to kind of counteract that. Ravana is stupid OP right now. He's like banned in every top level game. This health shield really needed a nerf, so I'm happy to see he got one. 1% might not seem like a lot to a lot of players, but it is quite a bit, I promise. So this is a good change. Them buffing him at the same time, I don't really agree with, but that's okay. They only really buffed his late game damage, so it's not that big of a deal. Caron, they are decreasing the max health contribution from 3% to 2.5% on his second ability, Damnation. This is the shield, for those of you that are confused, because high res doesn't be specific in these patch notes. You know, if you read this as a newer player, you'd be like, his ability gives you max health, but what is this even talking about? No, they're talking about a shield that you get on the 2 when you proc on somebody and then you attack them, you get a shield, and so do your allies if they attack. Basically, they're just making it so the shield is less big, which is cool. I think that's a really good nerf. You know, Caron actually released pretty balanced, I would say. He's definitely not OP. He doesn't have a lot of peel as a guardian, but he has a lot of utility, which is really neat. And the way that they're nerfing him is a method that I think should be incorporated a lot more in Smite, where instead of nerfing their strengths, you nerf their weaknesses, so it's easier to deal with them. And what I mean by that is his strengths are that he is an engaged character and that he goes in and, you know, he really starts fights, which is cool. His weaknesses are that he lacks peel. So by nerfing the fact that he lacks peel, by essentially making his peel a little bit worse, you know, by making the shield a little bit worse, you're making him a much more cool character, in my opinion, because then it's a much bigger trade-off. You know, he engages well, but then he really lacks the peel, which I think is fun, because although it can be broken in some scenarios, it's definitely a lot more interesting than, you know, this character does a lot of damage. Let's nerf their damage. I'm a big fan of like glass cannons and stuff like that, so I'm a bit biased, but I think stuff like this is always cool. Sun Wukong, they're decreasing the physical power gained per level from 2 to 1.5. This is his passive. And I think that's all the supports. And then we just have some nerfs for Out of Conquest, and then buffs. Aphrodite is getting a nerf, Ganesh is getting a nerf, Yanis is getting a nerf, Kuzumo is getting a nerf. For all the game modes outside of Conquest, that's what these are. And that's it. So yeah, there's not too many changes happening for support in the next patch, but there are some cool ones. This is a neat nerf. I really like that. I like the nerf to Ravana. And I really like the item changes that are happening. You know, I like the Shogun's buff. I love the secondscepter buff. I think this is a little lackluster, but neat. And I love these mask buffs right here. And then I like the god buffs. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you're excited for the new patch. PTS should be live by the time this video goes up, so go play it. They're doing patch notes on Wednesdays again, specifically so we have an extra day of PTS. So go have fun, go test stuff, and have a great day. Peace out.